Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call the workshop session to order. First item is a discussion and presentation from Keith Sled, Heart of Texas Defense Alliance.
Good evening, Mayor and council
Good
members,
afternoon.
city manager and staff. Hope y'all all got some rain today.
No.
We got a little bit, but we need more. Just came to give you an update on what's been going on with Fort Hood and with our organization. And I think you know that Fort Hood has a large impact on the area. The comptroller redid his estimate this year, and what they think, they say now is that Fort Hood generates about $28.9 billion economic output in Central Texas, which is good. It does come with some other benefits too. It's the largest single site employer in the state of Texas still. So, and if you look at Bell, Coryell, and Lampasas counties, about 1 in 3 people is either active duty military, retired military, or one of their family members. And I'll talk to you a little bit. You're probably seeing a little growth in some of the active duty folks living in your region recently, mainly due to the housing issues. I do want to make one introduction. Your board member on our board is Clay Harrington. He's here with me tonight as well. And I do want to appreciate you for appointing him to our board because he's been a pleasure to work with. These are just some stuff that we're working on. I am not going to talk about all of those. I'm just going to a couple of updates. You should be aware that Fort Hood will be renamed. The congressional law passed the year before last. They have made their final recommendations. The Secretary of Defense approved it earlier this month, and it'll go for a 90-day cooling off period, and then it'll be implemented probably starting after the first of the year. Fort Hood will become Fort Cavazos, named after General Richard Cavazos, who is the first Hispanic 4-star general. And there's some other installations being renamed as well. So it is what it is, but that is final now, and so we should start probably after the 1st of January, start seeing that implemented across the area. 3 Corps did change command. Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe is now the 3 Corps commander, replaced General White. He is interested in coming out to the area. So if you have something you'd like to see him come to, I encourage you to invite him. He does want to get out and meet the communities, and he understands kind of how there's a larger regional issue that soldiers live in all the communities, not just in Killeen. And he's a great guy, and his wife is very sweet too. So if you invite her, you'll really enjoy talking to her. The last thing, the defense budget, it has not passed. There's one in the House. The Senate's maybe going to take action this next month, so we'll see. So they did start the first of the year with a continuing resolution, which is never positive, but it is what it is. This year, the defense budget, though, is going to have some cuts in numbers of forces. So the Army will drop to 400 plus 1,450, where'd my number go? Yeah, 473,000. Be the smallest Army since World War II. And I will tell you that there's probably going to be additional cuts next year based on the administration. So it is significant. We don't know how that will affect Fort Hood yet. Fort Hood does have some benefits. The 1st Cavalry Division has been designated one of the Army's what's called a penetration division, which is made for river crossings, which is now called a wet gap crossings or other things like that. It will have some enhanced abilities because of that. We don't know yet how much of that's going to be brought to Fort Hood or versus be resident maybe in the National Guard or the Reserve. They have had one battalion that was activated this summer. That was an air defense battalion that has increased Fort Hood's population by about 500 plus soldiers. There's a bridge company, multi-role bridge company that was activated last week actually. It brought another 200 soldiers. And then there's another artillery battalion that will come next year, add another 500 soldiers. And there's some potential additional growth in that as we go forward. So that's good news for the area, except for the housing makes it a challenge for some of those folks. Right now there's about 14% of the posts deployed, mainly to Europe. There's a brigade combat team in Europe. There's some other forces that are at different locations throughout the world. I bring that first one up to you is DOD is going to stand up a Ukrainian equipment and training task force in Europe. It will not be a new unit. It will take soldiers out of hide from other units to fill that. So there's likely an increase in deployments for some of those forces at Fort Hood, particularly out of the 3 Corps headquarters. We do have trips out to the National Training Center at Fort Irwin. We do them every time one of the brigades comes out from Fort Hood and goes out there to train. They're out there for about a month. The next one we have coming up is June, when 1st Brigade from 1st Cav will go out there for their training, and then the 3rd Cavalry Regiment will go out in August. So if you have someone you would like to send out there to be part of that, if you please just send me an email, and you can send it to Finley, he can get home, or you can send it to me direct. We'll add them to the invitation list. We usually go out on a Saturday. We're there on Sunday, and we take them out into the training area on Sunday, so they'll be all day out in the sand, and then we'll fly back Monday. So it kind of minimizes the impacts on people who have businesses or the things they have to be gone for. It's a great opportunity because they get to see it's not what you see on TV. Is actually, you get to understand how this all comes together, and it's a lot more complex. And it's much different than what you see portrayed on TV in a lot of cases. We've had 11 trips so far, a little over 100 people go. Comptroller has gone, Glenn Hager, state representatives have gone, state senators have gone, and some of those folks we'll invite as well. If you have someone that you're friends with, but you want to have a little fun with them, and tell them to come out to the August rotation, because August at the National Training Center is an interesting experience. It'll be about 110, 115 degrees every day, sometimes a little warmer, and they'll get dusty too. There is one new benefit that the DOD has been implemented last year and will implement this year. Or I should say was authorized last year and be implemented this year. It's called a basic needs allowance. And so for junior soldiers who are at the 130% below poverty level or below, as it stands in the regular government guidance, they will get a potential additional benefit to help cover cost of inflation, cost of housing, and some other stuff. It can be up to $500. We don't yet know how that's going to impact this area because DOD has to implement it by 1 January, but they haven't published anything. But I bring that up to you because you do have soldiers living in your area. They may get some additional income to help offset some of their costs in the area. It will be taxable for them, so it won't be a straight $500 bonus to them. And they can't get back pay. Once it starts, it's from then on. If they get promoted, they may potentially be promoted out of the ability to receive that, which could be a double-edged sword at the same time. This is what I was talking about with housing. This chart, from the data is from the Texas Real Estate Center out of A&M, and I'll briefly explain to you. What you see across the bottom goes from January of 2011 to April of this year, and I just haven't pulled data for the last couple of months. The brown is the inventory. The blue is the number of sales. That green line you'll kind of see is the months of inventory. What you've seen occur over the last 12 plus almost years now is the inventory has declined. What's significant is back in June of 20, the available housing dropped below the number of monthly sales. And that's when you started seeing houses that were on the market for a week or 2 weeks, and you started seeing bidding wars going up. And that's why you've seen people now move out to Lampasas that normally would have probably lived over in the Clean Cove, Harker Heights area. They can't find housing over there. There's a 90-day wait time for rentals. If you're buying a house, it can be almost as bad. So you're seeing some move over here and some move over towards Temple. So I do think you'll see a few more that will continue to move to this area. Good news and bad news. If you have housing issues in this area, it's just going to make that a little further. Or if the rental issues in this area are similar, then you're going to have that challenge as well. But they should be good neighbors in your community, and we know how well y'all treat them, so we do appreciate what you do for your military families. This is the Fast Facts. It goes out every month. I know Finley gets this. I believe a lot of others may get it. If you want it, you just got to let me have your email, and I'll add you to the distro list. It just kind of gives you a quick snapshot. You'll see this is the first time we've had it in a long time that the number of assigned soldiers is less than the number of authorized soldiers at Fort Hood. Typically, it's been in the 36,000 to 37,000 range that's assigned. And you've seen in the news where Army's had a challenge with recruiting, and that's probably going to be this way for a while. Before, the Army manned most of the units at 105% of their authorization, which was why we would have 36,000, 37,000. But now they're not going to be able to do that because of the ability to recruit. So we hope that will improve over time, but we do not know yet where that will be. Still have anywhere 70% plus of the family members live off post with their soldiers. And you can see the deployment numbers there. We do expect that will go up. 2nd Brigade from 1st Cav will deploy this fall to Europe as part of that rotational force in response to what Russia's doing in Ukraine. And the numbers at North Fort Hood at the bottom there, it's kind of low for this time of year. We do expect that. Actually, it's gone up already because there's another brigade up there deploying. Subject to any questions you have, that's all I have for you all this evening.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you all very much for what y'all do
Thank you,
for the
sir. We
soldiers and their
appreciate you
families.
coming out. Next item, discussion and presentation regarding the Chamber of Commerce 3rd and 4th quarter reports.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. You'll see in your packets, I've presented the budget for the 3rd and 4th quarter of 2022 for this fiscal year, and there are some probably some questions on that budget, and I have answers for the line items that I have actually went over in expenditures. So does anybody have any questions outside of the receipts that were provided for those items that were over budget?
Go ahead and explain what you needed to.
Okay.
We'll be good.
So in regards to the administrative fee item, so that was obviously budgeted incorrectly, and it went over due to it being budgeted on a net plus Social Security and Medicare instead of gross plus Social Security and Medicare, which I've been alerted by the accountant that that needs to happen moving forward. And then the, let's see, the website, which went over, that was actually increased, the software and maintenance program went up mid-year after it had already been budgeted, and so that was paid actually as an annual expense, and so it did save a little bit of money. And then the copiers, going back up to that, so the copier, we actually incur property tax on that rental, which I was not aware of either. But knowing that, we are looking at possibly a cheaper option to streamline that process, as we're not doing as many copy jobs for people outside the community. So it's just inside our office and visitor center. And obviously utilities is what it is. Utilities went up. It was an extremely hot summer. So that was a $22 over, so. Any questions?
I just wanted to say, great job. You've got lots of good events that you've held over the last few months, and I think you'll have
Thank
some
you.
more to come.
Yes, and we have tried to support and be involved with as many events as happening around town, and it's been wonderful. So we've tried to bring in a lot of different partners and support nonprofits, and so we're excited about that. Just another note as well, we had a travel writer in last week from the Texas Wildlife and Parks magazine, and we actually took her on a tour of the sculpture garden and around the hostess house, the springs, the Keystone Hotel, and she stayed in one of the local bed and breakfasts. So that article should be coming out in about a month. So we're really excited. So anytime we get an opportunity to do that, we try to highlight all of our attractions. So
Great. We'll look for that.
yes, sir.
How is your retention of your clients been?
As far as membership, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so in regards to membership,
And your collections.
I'm sorry,
And your collections.
in collections?
Yes.
Well, we do an annual dues membership, so they pay at the beginning of, we bill out in December, they pay in January. We give them about 30 days, and then we give them another 30 days if they want to be included in the membership directory that we pay for and put in the visitor's guide as a portion of our chamber publication, part of the publication. But we haven't had a chance because people are coming in like hotcakes. And so a lot of times we don't know that a new business is here until we actually see it and somebody walks through our door. So we are trying to do the best that we can. We've had a lot of people come in that way recently, but there's also been several businesses who have either moved out of Lampasas or closed their doors or are pulling back on their marketing, and they consider us a marketing fee or expense for them. So I would say we're getting about 3 to 4 a month. So in my opinion, I think that's really great. Analytically, I mean, it's based on obviously the amount of businesses that are coming into town, but I feel really good about
I
it.
appreciate your continued work on that.
Well, thank you so much. And we definitely try to spend Fridays at least to go out and visit with members and partners and try to find out what's going on in the community so we can link them up properly to events. You know, there's a lot of people who want to get involved with something, but they don't really know what it's about. And so we're trying to educate them as much as possible and have it make sense for that business and organization. So,
Great.
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks.
we go on to the Hostess House. Next item, discussion and recap from the Hostess House site visit held on October 17, 2022 with Reliance Architect.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Wanted to just recap briefly our meeting of last Monday. The project, as you know, started really well before July of 2021. 2021 was the first time that we had taken a look at different scope options as well as cost estimates. But we had been trying to make this sausage prior to that date in terms of procurement of architecture, design, and trying to get input in terms of what was mostly needed at the Hostess House. Last Monday, we devoted that meeting to review of the 90% construction plans. Those, as you remember, included some code compliance issues as well as a fairly lengthy list of ad alternates. Included in your packet are the meeting notes from that meeting. We also have, I think we provided you current estimates that Antonio referred to on the 17th. We provided those to you on the 18th, and you also have a hard copy, I believe, in the packet, and also it was placed in your box. We do also have a few slides that we have included in your packet that I will refer to. And if you would like to, there are a number of them that look the same. A lot of these are recycled. You have seen these over the course of a year. And again, this is to remind you that Council has identified some funding not only out of 40, but also out of Fund 35, which is a 2022 CO issue. You also have three versions of the what I consider, or what I call the Fund 40 project accounting spreadsheet. And really what I'd like to do is call your attention to page 74. This is the what I've updated in terms of the amount for the Hostess House. And as you recall, one of Council's directives was that you wanted to maintain a $200,000 balance in Fund 40. So frankly, by working backwards to make sure that we had the $200,000 balance, you can see the very bottom number, the 200,000 there, that's your surplus, provided that you use $796,000 for the Hostess House. You combine that with the 800,000 that has been previously identified in Fund 30, and that would have, your recollection might remember page 73, that slide where we identified about 800. So it's slightly less than about 1.6 that the Council had previously targeted for that project. The other thing, and as I've said every time we present you with this project accounting spreadsheet for Fund 40, this assumes no growth in the fund. So this is a snapshot of September 30th. And if you see under year-to-date income, which is the second number at the very top, you see last year the city brought in about $208,000 in revenue for that fund. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think what we're seeking tonight, and this is on the regular agenda as well, is your directive to go ahead and advertise and seek bids. Estimates are great, and I think Mr. Naylor has done a good job at trying to get as accurate a number as he could for this time of year and this point in time in the construction world. However, we won't know real numbers until somebody gives us a bid and says they can do it for this amount.
Right. Are there any questions of Finley?
Did Mr. Naylor provide some individuals that he's going to invite to bid?
Just what he referenced on the 17th, which was a firm out of Temple, and I believe, and I did not write down the name of that firm, but.
Right. And are we going to try to solicit at least 2 or 3 that we have here?
We certainly, it is a comment that we've made to several people that, hey, this is coming up. So as we've said hello to people standing in line at the utility counter, we've reminded them that, hey, this project is coming up. Just as a reminder, Reliance Architecture also uses a number of plan rooms. This will be, I can't tell you how many reaches this will have, but certainly the Miller Blueprint plan room, and there are a number of other plan rooms that he will utilize to make sure that this is out to the public.
It's going to take a fairly large contractor to pull this off as far as the general. And I just wondered if we were going to send out any kind of invitations or anything to the local.
I think we're certainly making the locals know about it. Are they going to get a handwritten invitation? Probably not. We don't want to.
I don't want to miss anybody, obviously, and discourage them from.
If they're in the business, then they're going to find out. They're going to see it.
But maybe we could post something on the website or something.
We always push this out. We have in fact, we have a lot of people that subscribe to our city project list. So when we push this out, we push it out to our website, and know that we also have a huge list of contractors that subscribe to that project link, so that as soon as the project hits that's out for bid, it's pushed out to all of those contractors automatically.
Well, I'd appreciate it.
You bet.
Other questions, concerns?
I don't know. I guess, I mean, and it's no surprise, like, after that meeting that we had, still kind of my hair blown back with the numbers.
Yes.
Having a hard time trying to get on board with potentially 1.8 million for that building. And I don't know what it's going to take to get around that. It's going to increase, I guess, occupancy in there up to, what, 110 on each floor?
It will do something to increase occupancy. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but we could certainly get the fire chief and the fire marshal through the plan review process to give us a good number.
And I guess just in my head, I'm thinking, is there any way to bring it up to code and to, I don't know, beautify it a little bit more without spending $1.5 million or more?
I think council certainly does have options. Ultimately, you're the ones that are going to have to raise your hand and vote for this or not vote for it. I think just as a reminder, Vicki is a better spokesperson for this than I am, but I think the issues that were brought up from our patrons are kitchen, restrooms, storage. Could we have a little more room? We don't have adequate data or a way to make sure that we can get data at certain locations, so elevator. Could you do something with a lesser scope? You could, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to address those kind of obvious needs in doing so. But certainly council will have options. I forgot what the ad alternate amount was. It was about $400,000.
Yes.
And
I
please,
believe
and that's without
right.
looking at the estimate. So again, council will have options. I don't know that we had a patron that said, man, if we only had a canopy out on that deck. But we have had patrons say, I can't get up, that getting up and down the stairs on that elevator or get to the second floor on that elevator is a little iffy, so. And having to walk outside to the restrooms, we've actually had those comments. Having a more usable kitchen, that's something we've certainly heard of. So I think it would certainly be staff's suggestion to council that you at least put it out to bid. Once you get the numbers back, then you've got another kind of series of decisions to make, and it may be all thumbs up or thumbs down, or we take these ad alternates but not these. So that would be my suggestion at this point, and certainly Mr. Pierce or Mr. Keel might chime in on that end of it as well.
I'll chime in. I'm obviously late to the game on this. I'm being new to city council. There's been a lot of discuss before I came on board. I personally feel that we need to use this money somewhere else, maybe in a new facility, larger facility, single story. The word of community center, convention center, use that money for that, is what I feel we should do. The money we can use, $500,000-600,000, get it up to where we need it to be, and then build something nice for the community. Respecting the historical significance of this and not taking away from it. But if we're wanting to do what I think it sounds like we're wanting to do, then that's where we should be going. That's my opinion.
Anyone else?
Well, I just basically kind of wanted to chime in my 2 cents too. In the process of doing this, I think it's, you know, let me ask you this question: how vested in this project are we right now with the Nailers? What have we actually
Yeah,
spent?
your contract, I believe, and again, I don't have my contract with me, was about 98,000.
Okay, so we're heavily invested. I'd consider that heavily invested in this deal. Short of just abandoning the whole project, what does that look like? I think you probably hit the nail on the head, Finley. At least go through the bidding process, because that's not going to cost us a dime, correct?
It'll be some advertising, but pretty insignificant compared to the entire project.
Because in being a part of these things myself, it's you don't ever know what you're going to uncover, what's going to unfold, until you get some eyes on this thing. And I mean, it's really tough for me right now to make any decisions at all, just taking the architect's word that this is, you know, what it's going to cost. He may come in right on the mark, but until you got 3 or 4, you know, professional contractors that's looking at this, you know, that's dealing in this world every day, not that Naylor's not dealing in it every day. And then I think, you know, with where we're at, I think we can choose to go forward or do what Zach did, fix a sink, who knows what, but that's my opinion.
I was wondering too, like when we do go out for bid, like if we do go out for bid, because there was a whole lot of ad alternates, because I think this originally started out closer to like 850,000, and then it went to 1.2 with the add-on, and so if we bid this, are we bidding this with all the add-ons? Is that with the constructions or the ad alternates, or are they going to bid it like
And
in pieces?
To remind council, July 2021, the scope that council chose to move forward with on that, at that time, was the 1.3. So the 800 was for a much lesser scope that council chose not to pursue. So what they would do is a base bid, which would have, you know, the basics, your code issues, your floor plan issues, and then you would have another list that you would ask the contractor to bid on a per, typically a per item number that they would bid on as your ad alternates.
So we're basically asking them to bid on, because I remember what I voted for, but and I'll remember what won was that 1.2. So is that what they're bidding on? That plan that we had said, this kitchen and this, that, when we had planned that? And then they're also bidding on these additional things?
So if you take a look at the 90% plan set that we looked at last Monday, that would be what they would be bidding on. And on the cover page, you have the list of items that were included. Then on the cover page, maybe it was the second page, there was a listing of the ad alternates.
And I would just remind council that some of those are cosmetic, and we decided we like them. It doesn't mean you have to pay for them. You can change your mind and say you don't care about the wood or the stone, but a lot of that is code that needs to come up to code, and a lot of it is just cosmetic changes that we would like to see. So looking at your form there, you can kind of cross off some things that might not be so important to you if they cost that much money.
Well, and to bring it up to code was what, about 157? Is that about right?
I
Frank?
believe that was the add to, and again, these are an estimate. I guarantee you one thing, the estimate will not equal what the bid is. Those numbers will not match. Hopefully, they're relatively close, but, or under, of course. But yes, I believe the add-ons for fire suppression, some railing work, some egress work, stairs, the additional egress from the north balcony. There were a number of those items that totaled, I believe it was
It's like
157.
Grease trap, fire alarm system, sprinkler system, fire hydrant,
Correct.
exit stairs, replace guardrails and handrails, 156.9.
Right. And I think what we talked about the other night too is, you know, can we do some in-house work on the, for example, the relocation of the fire hydrant?
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Going forward, we'll have a discussion regarding the draft agenda for the special comprehensive plan meeting to be held November 1st, 2022.
Mayor and council, at this point, what our intention is, or what at least is in staff's mind, and of course this is subject to your input and direction, but we want to spend some time and review the progress as well as status on any of the short-term goals that have been identified previously prior to the beginning of our CIP process and budget process that we kind of put a hold on until those items were done. If there are other items that council would like to also include on the agenda for next Tuesday evening, we'd certainly entertain that and want to make sure that we that our agenda matches what you would like to talk about.
Does anyone wish to add anything?
I just noticed that we do talk about truck routes and so on and so forth, but our overall transportation plan in regards to moving traffic locally, if there's any time left.
I think the comprehensive plan references some transportation, but it's not, I would not say it's a comprehensive look at our transportation plan. So if that's something we want to spend a little time on, we sure can.
Would the colored school and the church, would that fall up underneath that?
I believe that there are some short-term goals that are perhaps a little more general, but we can make sure that we include that kind of as a call out.
With that New Hope Baptist Church, is there a possibility of maybe teaming up with any local organizations?
We can have that discussion. I think we've talked about that previously. Certainly.
Anything else? Everyone comfortable with the agenda? Thank you, sir. I don't see Mr. Hodges yet. Did you want to continue on, or should we give him a few minutes? Stop. Okay, we'll have a discussion regarding any other item on the regular agenda. Anyone wish to address that? If not, I'll adjourn the workshop session. Could we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we need a break? You want to continue on? Just go. We'll continue on. A call to order the regular session. Chief Cummins, if you would lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with open hearts and minds,
And we thank you for what a great place to be and a great group of people to take care of your business. We ask that you be with us tonight on both sides to share information, make good decisions, and for ultimately to do the best we can for your people, which is your will. We ask that you forgive us of our sins, watch over us for safety till we can meet again. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Please join me in the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to these texts, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We do have some presentations and proclamations. Is Paul here? There's Paul.
Yes, he's in the back.
I see. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm not sure how to do this, so.
Use the mic, Paul, yeah.
The four of us are here to represent the Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association. We'd like to show our thanks and gratitude to all the first responders in the town and the county, actually, not the county this evening for obvious reasons. Friday is First Responder Appreciation Day. And what we have here, we'd like to present our thin line flags. Those that don't know, there's different colors on those flags. The blue ones we see all over, those are the thin blue line. They signify police. The red ones are for the fire department, and the gold ones are actually for dispatchers. Everybody seems to forget those. But we would like to thank all first responders in the city, from dispatchers up, and we're going to go over and do counties next. We've got the jailers. We've got everybody but the EMTs, because Hamilton was in the middle of everything, and I've already talked to them so they don't feel left out. But we have a thin line flag for every first responder in the city and the county. We're starting tonight with the city. So if I could get Chief Smith, Chief Cummings, and Kelly. We're gonna, yes, sir. You got one for all your firefighters. I already got your numbers down, so you can come in and see it. We thank y'all, and I'm gonna give you an email tomorrow, and you can just send it to all your firefighters.
They caught it.
Thank you, Paul. We do have some service anniversaries. Larry Wilson, 10 years. Finley DeGraffenreid, Reed, 10 years. Brian Hall, 10 years. Next item, we do have a community champion, Mr. Steve Sheldon, and we have Dr. Rasco here to present.
On behalf of the ISD, I want to thank the City Council for approving our two SROs and Chief Cummings and Mr. Finley and the mayor for their hard work in making sure that our kids are safe. I want to recognize this guy right here. I can't tell you, after the Uvalde shooting, it was something in the schools that we obviously stressed about. This guy right here stepped up. I cannot tell you the great job that he did. He revamped our entire standard response protocol. He checked every door in the district. There are 100 exterior doors, and he's out there in 105-degree temperature checking those doors to make sure that not only they shut, but the closures are going correctly, making sure that they're sound. He's been to every door in the district. In addition to that, he's labeled every one. So you'll see emergency numbers on each one to make sure that if there is an issue, we'll be able to label those, and our first responders will be able to get there safely. He is responsible for that. Not only that, he's just somebody that we depend on greatly, and we cannot do our jobs as well without him. So we do thank Officer Sheldon for all he has done, and he is definitely a community partner we recognize at this time.
Next item, public hearing, citizen comments. Citizen comments who desire to address the city council on a matter that is not included on our agenda may do so at this time. The city council may not deliberate on items presented under this agenda item.
Hello, City Council. I was arrested. I was arrested about a month ago, and I did jail time for that, and I did 3 weeks in jail, and I feel like I had poison in jail, and they took me to the hospital, and they gave me, tried to revive me in the hospital, they revived me, and so I'm here now because they let me out of jail, and now I got to go back to trial for something I'm not guilty of. They arrested me for having hemp in my car, having a gun in my car. I carry a gun because somebody was trying to kill me. I carried a gun for that reason, and I also carry hemp with me. I kept it in the seat of the car, and the cop came up there and knocked on my window and said, "You got marijuana in your car." Not marijuana. I bought hemp in the store, and I bought the gun in the store too. I went through that FBI check, and they said you're approved. So I approved everything. So I don't know why I went to jail. And that's the truth. I don't know why, but I went to jail for that reason. And I need them to secure this all the way. I need them to take care of things. So they not take care of things. I should be out of jail. I should not worry about this. I'm worried about it all every day. I worry about it every day because I got to go back to court. I went to the court and I asked a judge, "Hey, when's my court date?" He says, "Get in my courtroom like that. Not courtroom. Get out of my office." So I left his office because I called cops on him. That's what he said to me. He said, "Call cops on me." I didn't know the guy. The guy was acting like that, so I know why he did that. So anyways, I'm in the bind. I need somebody to take up for me, do me right, because nothing's going right for me, nothing at all. And I had a gun, legally had a gun, and I legally had hemp in my car, hemp. I bought it in the store, and it had $21 on, and over 21, and I bought the gun in the store, and they said, you're approved. So anyways, I approved everything, so I don't know why I was in jail. So that's what I'm saying to y'all tonight.
Sir, your time has run
Okay.
out,
Okay.
and we're not allowed to respond to you, but we do appreciate you coming in.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Next item is any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter that is included on the agenda. We have no one. Minutes, discussion and possible action concerning the approval of minutes of the regular meeting held on October 10, 2022.
I didn't see any corrections. Recommend approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have the consent agenda, 2 items. Discussion and possible action regarding the second reading of an ordinance to approve a request to rezone property from commercial to single-family residential, 6 SF6, for property described as lots 9, 10, 11, 12, Block 5, White's Addition on the East Avenue J, FM 580, between Casbeer Street and White Street. Second, discussion and possible action regarding the second reading of an ordinance to amend the City of Lampasas Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, fee schedule, to include the Campbell Park Pavilion. Does anyone wish to remove either item?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is boards, department reports. We have the building official monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're going to quickly go over this. You have a presentation at your dais as well. So looking at our staff, we have Frank Ellett, who's the building official. We have myself, who's the city secretary and the zoning administrator. We have Lupe Charping, who is the administrative secretary and the permit technician. And then we recently added Mike Blair as our civil inspector full-time. He was doing with us part-time, but now he's more focused on us outside of projects that he oversees as well. So this is kind of just to give you another kind of a synopsis of how our day is. Generally, we're spending a lot of time educating, whether it's plating, zoning, land use, building codes. We try to focus on the minimum baseline standards, and then, of course, everybody has a homestead exemption on what they can and can't do on their property. We go through a preliminary plan review, and then utility availability. So it's kind of the first step when anybody comes in and wants to develop land, whether it's residential or commercial. I will send out a routing form out to public utilities for them to identify, do they have sewer, do they have water, do they have electric? And if they do, great. If they don't, then what's the cost to extend it to that property? And then I provide that feedback to the developer. Meetings, we try to do on-site meetings to discuss projects prior to permitting. That way we're both on the same page. We do pre-construction meetings with staff, the GC, the general contractor, developers, and trades, just to make sure that we know going forward of how the inspection process will work and what the expectations are of both parties. We try to do a site visit with the trades just so we understand on site what's going on and what's going to happen with that property once it starts getting developed. And then, of course, with the inspection process, our building official, Mr. Ellett, generally does same-day inspections. We do several re-inspections, and then we also do a punch list typically to let them know what needs to happen before we do a final or certificate of occupancy. So this just kind of gives you a breakdown of the total permits issued by type. So MyGov, I didn't separate those out. That's just a group because I wanted to kind of show a comparison. So of the 558 total permits we issued over this year, 203 of them were handled through MyGov, which is good because that's a new program that we're trying to implement and try to get more of developers, homeowners, et cetera, to utilize that platform. So it is improving. You can see the remodels are our highest at 85. A typical remodel could be an actual remodel of a home. It could be a carport. It could be adding a gazebo, adding, a storage shed to their property. There's various things that go along with a remodel or an addition subject matter. And then, of course, your plumbing, your electric, new fences, new roofs. New construction is going to be your residential and commercial. So over this past year, we've issued 21 building permits for new construction. Demolition, that could be your interior demo, which we do a lot of because they want to start over and bring everything up to code. And then, of course, there's a demolition of a building. It could be a substandard structure. It could be a shed, et cetera, whatever's on the actual property that they want to demo. Sign, of course, and then solar panels has been a big hot item here lately. We're, even though 10 is a low number, it's really increasing as far as how many solar panels we actually are seeing come through our department. Mechanical, and then of course pools. This will show you kind of how it is per month. It's pretty average, and we stay pretty level throughout each month. Our highest, of course, was 81, and well, actually 84 in August, but we stay consistent throughout the month. This kind of shows you a graph, just kind of shows you how our highs and our peaks and our valleys, and shows you how we're doing on a monthly basis. Inspections by month, and I do want to put the disclaimer that this does not include every inspection this is captured, because we do a lot of one-on-one, we do a lot of facilitating conversations out in the field. But on average, we did 568 inspections. That's average about 47 a month, and we average about 2 per day, which is not adequate by any means. We do a lot more than that. But so October, you can kind of see, I kind of gauge it for each month of how we're doing. So some months are higher than others. But again, like I said, this does not include re-inspections. It doesn't include on-site visits or consults. This is just strictly just inspections that we were able to capture. New businesses, some of them have been there for a little bit, but over this last year, these are ones I wanted to highlight. We have Gillen's Wine and Candy. We have Lampasas Beer Market, who recently has new owners. Next Level Storage Units on 4th Street. We have Urban Storage Units on 4th Street. Felicia's Cafe, although they're no longer here, we did, through this past year, we did permit a actual substandard, not a substandard, an accessory structure out on their property because they wanted to do the cafe. So they had their manufacturing on one side and they did a little cafe on the other. So that was done this year. WM Roofing and Always Home Properties have opened up a business on Key Avenue. Even though they've been around for a little bit, they're actually made their home base here in Lampasas. T-Mobile's new. It's over there where the Golden Chick was put in about over a year ago. Lolly's Ice Cream Shop is over next to the Dollar Tree. We have Echo Strong facility that has been in operation now for quite a few months. And then we have Saloon 37, which is relatively new as well. So planning and zoning, so this full year, we've done 6 meetings. We've had 5 public hearings, and I've issued 120 certified letters. The types of requests, we have 2 rezone, 5 specific use permits, and then 4 plat approvals. For the Zoning Board of Adjustments, we've done 3 meetings, 4 public hearings, and 66 certified letters. So the type of requests for the Zoning Board of Adjustments are going to be my variances. So we've done parking space variance from 75 to 50, the lot size from 6,000 to 3,200, which was denied, and then the lot depth was for the same parcel from 110 to 50, which was a denied application. The lot depth from 110 to 105, lot width from 55 to 45, and then a front yard setback from 25 till 10. And then I do want to highlight that in May of 2022, we did facilitate a training for our planning commission. We had some new members, and then of course we wanted to refresh those that have been there on the board for a little bit. So these are the adopted ordinances based out of my zoning or the planning meetings that we had. So of course we adopted the 2020 National Electric Code and the 2021 ICC building codes, and that was effective in January. The ordinance to abandon an alley in Block 76. We annexed in Hidden Oak subdivision. We did a couple of specific use permits for portable building cells for an accessory dwelling guest house. We rezoned property from retail to single family. We did a specific use permit to allow the open storage or machinery, which is what you'll notice, the loss in equipment on Key Avenue, right there at the corner of North and Key. And then we did an ordinance to amend the subdivision regulations most recently to allow for a letter of credit in lieu of a bond. Any questions? Is that a speed reading for you?
On the ICC building codes, once those are adopted, can those be altered per the city, or is it just kind of a universal on the building codes? Like, in other words, because some of them are pretty strict for some of our local residents. There is latitude, okay. Yeah.
But we don't necessarily amend the code unless it's something that we want to modify and amend going forward. Because typically when the building codes, that is a standard that we try to follow. If there's something that won't necessarily meet that standard, then we will make latitude and make some decisions based on, as long as it's not life safety, fire safety, something along those lines. But yes, we do provide a lot of latitude.
We try to meet the intent of the code instead of the letter of it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you both, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up is the city manager's operational report.
Mayor and council, just a few brief comments. You have the memo in your packet. Wanted to report just briefly on the recent LEDC meeting that was held on October 19th. It was a fairly full agenda, and a lot of it related to the completion of the business park and getting prepared for that. We did include the accounting, project accounting with that, and pay application number 6, as well as a cover memo that we always supply to finance. One note that I will make is that I did reference that the amount outstanding was $139,000. The amount outstanding for the LEDC is $139,000. We still hold the city's retainage for a total amount left on that approximately $2.6 million project being $183,000. So one correction in my notes there. Did spend some time talking about land use regulations, platting, design standards. We will be taking a look at the type and design of buildings out there, and we'll probably have to regulate that through covenants because the legislature has said that you cannot incorporate design standards, and this is a general statement, you cannot incorporate design standards in your zoning regulations. So those of you that have been going to TML for a number of years remember the masonry lobby in towns that just had a certain relatively high percentage of masonry requirement for any exterior finish. And what the legislature said, hey, is if it's in the building code, that's an allowable. You cannot dictate what somebody can use on the exterior of their house. Other than you can enforce that and dictate that through covenants, which are private agreements amongst property owners. The other thing that we will look at is we've really tried to take a very hard look at our zoning regulations to make sure that the vision of the city as well as the LDDC is matched with in terms of what types of land uses will be allowed out there, whether that's light industrial, light manufacturing, some retail, maybe some limited retail, but all of those items, some hospitality, but those items we're also trying to be very specific about. I also took a look at the process for some signage off of US 183, and we'll be taking another hard look and have another busy meeting at their upcoming meeting in November. Want to report that Chief Smith was very well prepared, as he always is, when the Texas Commission on Fire Protection came in to do their inspection. They got the best rating, or the best grade you could get, which is no violation noted. That included compliance with reporting, operating procedures, record keeping, and training facility records. So Chief Smith and his team did a heck of a job. Skate park, we were approximately 2 lifts from getting that pad done, and we got some rain. I guess it was rain we had about a week or so ago. The good news is although it did postpone us for a little bit until that base dries out, we have not failed any compaction tests. Even after that rain, they came in a few days later and tested the compaction, and it was still within their parameters. We will have, that pad will be constructed slightly above grade, and then we'll also have to bring in some additional base material for the elevated areas of the skate park. Park board, I actually wrote this prior to the meeting, but they did meet last Thursday, talked about disc golf course, and by all reports, the presentation was very well received, and I'm certain that that'll float up to City Council here in the next meeting or so, and if that project continues to kind of have legs, and we'll get to you. But I think staff has a little work to do with the interested parties in terms of where that could be located at the 580 Sports Park, but again, I would anticipate that would come back up to you. Also, spend a little time talking about the Lions Club equipment. We had hoped to bring something back a little more specific to council this meeting, but it will be next meeting before that happens. The Supreme Court, we got good news, and I think I sent you a quick email on this, that the 8th the Supreme Court of Texas denied Central Texas Water Supply Corporation's petition for review. That was last Friday on the 21st, I believe. This is an item that, I put down when the initial case was, the original petition was filed. It was August 31, 2018, but I can also tell you that I remember it was in 2017 getting invited to lunch by Lee Kelly of Central Texas with Dolores Good, and Lee at that lunch informed us that he was going to be changing the terms of the contract, and which led us to stand up and say, no, you can't do that. Anyway, this is a process that's now 5-6 years old and protracted, and litigation, I think, is kind of the norm. We're glad to get this behind us. I talked with Mary Keeney. I don't know that I think it's done. I think it's really over. So until the next time, I guess. But anyway, it's a good result for the city as well as Kempner in terms of making sure that contract stays as it was written and understood by the parties. Paving, we did have an opportunity to do a little bit more paving with the emulsion we had. We took some time on West 2nd Street in between Walnut and Howe. I didn't think that was me, maybe. Anyway, between Walnut and Howe, and I think the other real positive byproduct about this is that staff spent some additional time, and the person that was used to running the chip spreader, we made sure that that person could run the distributor, and the person on the distributor could run the payloader. And so we spent some time at the yard really trying to make sure that everyone was cross-trained, they were well prepared. And when I say choreographed, that is real. It is choreographed. If you've ever watched a chip seal operation, everybody, you have to be able to dance together. And so they did a good job on that, and I think, Ryan, am I missing anything? We'll be doing some emergency operation plan training with the assistance of Schneider Engineering. They'll be doing this primarily for our electric and utility departments, including some management and operations staff. The EOP drill will be conducted November 17th. We'll do that down here at the Calvert building with those staff and probably take about 2 hours. I do want to also let you know that on October 26th, staff will be gathering probably with 1 or 2 other outside stakeholders to talk about the eclipse, trying to put together the milestones or the timelines that we would need for a January pre-plan meeting, as well as the April meeting that will be more of a town hall format, and that will be approximately 1 year prior to the event. We also will be preparing some additional public information for businesses and organizations, but we'll put that plan into motion again. We'll be meeting small group and then larger group, and certainly the frequency will pick up as it gets closer to the event. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I was curious if anyone has applied for the Economic Development Director's job, if you've gotten any applications.
Yes, we have not as many as I would like, but I do believe we have 4 or 5 applications at this point.
Do you have a timeline on when you want to fill that?
We want to make sure that we have a good candidate. So we'll take whatever time is necessary so that we can identify a good candidate. There is no end. It's open until filled.
Any other comments? Thank you, Finley. I would just like to say congratulations to LAFTA. They put on an impressive event last weekend. Community event was benefiting their projects, and they had a really good turnout, and it was a fantastic event. So thank you. We have no unfinished business. We have new business, 7.1, discussion and acceptance of the Chamber of Commerce 3rd and 4th quarter reports.
Real quickly, on the heels of the eclipse planning, We are putting together a facts sheet for the public, so we will be presenting that at the October 26th meeting. And then we will be heading up probably a call center for the most part, because we feel that we'll probably get the most calls for that event. So that'll be, the communication plan will be dispersed to you all as well after we probably have the January meeting is what I'm thinking, so we know who needs to go where. So, but we have continued interest in it, so. And there's also, I don't know if it's monthly or quarterly, but there's a November 15th Zoom meeting. The ones that I've sat on before have had different leadership on them, whether it be a chamber, a city representative, some nonprofit organizations. And so those are actually Zoomed and recorded. I actually have a board meeting that day at the exact same time. So we will be not participating in that, but we will be able to listen back. And then the last one I attended had a lot of great information. So we'll keep spearheading that best we can. So,
Okay, thanks.
any more questions regarding the budget report?
I'd entertain a motion first.
Make a motion to accept the report as presented and to reimburse the approved expenses in the amount of $26,050.76.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions of Melissa? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I'm going to do one more plug. I'm so sorry. On Friday, November 4th, if everybody would like, we would love to see you and your faces at the Hunter's Welcome, which will be 9:30 to 3 at the HEB parking lot. So it's a great event to welcome hundreds of people into our town. So thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank you. 7.2, discussion and possible action regarding the approval of a master cooperative purchasing agreement between the Sheriff's Association of Texas, SAT, and the City of Lampasas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As defined in the Interlocal Corporation Act and the State Corporation in Local Purchasing Program, the city can enter into a purchasing agreement with the state and local entities which satisfy the legal bidding requirements of state law. While we are working with various vendors and trying to obtain a new police vehicle or EMS vehicle for the fire department, Defender Supply actually recommended us reach out to the Sheriff's Association of Texas and see what our options were there to try to locate a vehicle. During that time period, I reached out to them to see if we could reach and engage into an interlocal agreement similar to what we've done with Buy Board. We've done this with TIPS and other entities to where they assist us in the bidding process. So this is just another example of another avenue that we have where we can go out for bids with regarding to their program that they offer for us. There is a $350 PO, if you will, for each. It's an administrative fee, sorry. It's an administrative fee with every purchase order that is submitting through this organization. And that's pretty typical. I don't know what all the fees are for the buy boards or for the other entities off the top of my head. Some of them do charge a fee, some of them don't, but it's very minimal for their services. So we are very, we want to negotiate and we want to get into this interlocal agreement.
I move to approve the master cooperative purchasing agreement between the Sheriff's Association of Texas and the City of Lampasas and allow the city manager or designee to execute all required documents.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments for Becky?
Just out of, because of the administrative fee, is that, do you have, if all of them, like Buy Board and all those have those same fees, do you have this in your budget? Do you have this budgeted?
Well, the very minimal, the $350, I'm sure that we do have funds. I don't know that it's specifically specified for an administration fee for this, but it would be incorporated in purchase of the vehicle through this venue, through this type of vendor.
We do not have a separate line item for administrative fees related to Buy Board purchases.
Cost of doing business?
Pretty much.
No annual fees?
No, there's
Only
no
at-
annual fee with them. It's just per, each time we purchase a vehicle through them, it's $300 administration fee.
And that'll be compared to any other ones that we have and whether it's a good deal or not a good deal, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're
they
possibly
do the
looking
bidding
at
for
saving
us.
that $350 pretty easy.
I'm sorry?
You're possibly looking at saving that $350 pretty easy by having that knowledge in front of you.
Oh, absolutely, because they'll bid it for us and they'll find us the best deal.
Exactly.
So yes.
Yep.
Other comments or questions? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
7.3, discussion and possible action regarding the procurement of one 2023 Chevy Tahoe for the Lampasas Fire Department in the amount not to exceed $65,000.
Good
Chief
evening,
Smith.
Mayor. Good evening, Council. It's good to see you all this evening. We began this back in May of 2022 when we received a quote from Silsby to get an idea as far as what it would cost to have a 2023 Tahoe in the fire department. At that time, they quoted us about $57,000. We reached back out to them at the end of September. Not only did they advise us that they don't have a Tahoe that they could get us, but they also said they had an expedition and it was quite expensive. From there, we started working with a couple of other vendors. We reached out to Hoff Power Chevrolet here in town. Just for a vehicle to purchase here, purchasing locally, it'd be $59,000 just for the vehicle. We then worked from there with Caldwell. They work with a group called Cap Fleet out of Belton. We got a quote from them. Here again, it did include all the upfitting of the equipment, everything like that, but it was still rather high. So we ended up going with, as we talked about just a minute ago, with the Sheriff's Association of Texas. We found a 2023 Tahoe through a group called Defender. It's actually sold through Reliable Chevrolet. The quote on that would be $54,847.95. So that's the research on all that right there. If we could get a motion to consider the purchase of a 2023 Tahoe for the Lampasas Fire Department from Reliable Chevrolet through the Sheriff's Association of Texas, an amount of $54,847 with approval from staff, and to purchase additional needed equipment such as the mobile radio, charging system, various flashlights, batteries, that type of stuff, extinguisher, not to exceed $65,000.
I make a motion to approve the purchase of a 2023 Chevy Tahoe for the Lampasas Fire Department for Reliable Chevrolet through SAT, $54,847.95, with the approval for staff to purchase additional needed equipment such as mobile radio, charging system for the various batteries, flashlights, water extinguishers, in an amount not to exceed $65,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have questions or comments for Chief Smith?
So Chief, the vehicle itself, $54,847.95, and there'll be an additional about $10,000 for all that other equipment?
Yes, sir.
How does that break down?
Well, a mobile radio is going to be your more expensive thing. You're looking at $5,000 for that. By the time you put portable radio in there and you put your flashlights in, like it's listed out here in that, that's where you get up there. We may have a little bit of room left over after that, but it'll take the better part of that.
Any other comments or questions? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
7.4, discussion and possible action regarding the purchase of SRO equipment as defined in the interlocal agreement with LISD in August 2022, in an amount up to $49,500.
Mayor and council, if you'll recall, a few sessions ago, we came to you with a interlocal agreement to add 2 additional school resource officers to the staff, in workings with LISD. As part of that interlocal, y'all provided with some detailed information as to what it was going to cost for patrol cars, officers' salaries, equipment, etc. We have agreed that the city is going to take on the burden of part of that, and the school is going to take on the burden of part of that. Part of that, the school agreed that they would provide us with $49,500 towards the equipment for the officers. So though y'all have approved the interlocal agreement in detail with all of the monies, I'm coming to you tonight asking permission to start spending that $49,500 towards equipment for the actual officer. We are in the process of trying to get one officer hired. We have already hired one that's in training to fill these 2 positions. Unlike when we have a new officer come aboard because someone else has left us or retired, I don't have equipment to put on these new officers because they're brand new. And we were even surprised as to how much, when you start adding it up, from the boots to the badge to the guns to the defibrillators they carry in the car, just, you know, the whole shooting match, how much it costs. So the $49,500 is just a few dollars short when you divide it in half to what we estimate pretty close as to what it's going to cost to equip the officers. So working with Yvonne, kind of an unprecedented incident where y'all have approved the interlocal with the money in detail. It's not a budgeted item, but I'm coming to you asking for permission to go ahead and start spending what the school will then, as soon as we show them we have purchased this equipment, then reimburse us for this amount at $49,500. And looking at her rules and talking to her auditor, she said it's better to get it blessed twice, clearly in detail, than to assume. So here I am again asking for permission to spend this money at this time that we've already talked about spending prior.
Before we do a motion, can I ask for a clarification?
Let's do a motion and then ask. We don't have to, if you make the motion, you don't have to vote for it.
No,
Let's get a motion and a second.
Move to approve the purchase of SRO equipment in the amount of $49,316. That is a reimbursable expense per the interlocal agreement with LISD up to $49,500.
Seconded.
Okay, now Randy?
You asked for $49,316 in the motion, and you asked for $49,500.
$49,500 is what the school has agreed to pay us back towards the equipment. My estimation from what I provided prior, which is everything for the officer except for the salaries that goes on them, not the cars and the car equipment, is $49,316 based on our estimates from about a month ago, putting together the numbers as we were getting ready for the.
But you need the $49,500. That was the question that I had.
And you actually listed those line items on 138, or they're listed here, how it all breaks down and how much they are.
Yes.
Correct?
That column, the long one to your left there, that is all the equipment that starts going on the officer. Some of it is computer stuff specific to the officer. Like when they get in their car, they have to have internet access. That's a cost per year. They have to have access to the cloud that stores their body cam and their car camera footage. Those are a price a piece. So there's computer related specific to that officer over on the right column. So when you add up those amounts and then divide them in half, well, when you add up those amounts and multiply them twice, right now, based on these estimates from about a month to a month and a half ago when we started gathering these, it's $49,316 for the officer's equipment and the computer licensing and access, et cetera, specific to that officer. So the school, I'm going to guess, just rounded it off at $49,500, which is a few bucks over the $49,316. My guess is by now, my $49,316 has gone up a few bucks.
That's fine. I'm good with the motion. I'd second it.
And Chief Smith wasn't joking about those radios.
No, about $6,000 is what the radio that goes on your belt costs right now.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is discussion and possible action regarding the purchase of EMD radio upgrade as defined in the interlocal agreement with the Lampasas County in the amount of $84,411.10.
Similar to the previous request that we just finished, with the interlocal agreement with the county involving the emergency medical dispatch, there is equipment that's involved in that as well. So within the interlocal agreement, the county had agreed to spend up to $282,000. A good part of that is salary, and that's not what I'm talking about tonight. Specifically tonight, we would like to go ahead and start the purchase of the equipment, which is mainly computer related. One additional desktop computer. Our EMD program that'll be through the cloud is a good chunk of it, and that's $31,794 total. And we are in the process and have done a lot of work towards it, but they're to the point where through agreement, they need a small payment down now, and the summation of it will be due once we have completed their program, which will be months down the road. We are requesting to do a radio console upgrade our physical tower that's on the police department roof behind you, and add 2 more radio channels to our console, all of which together will cost about $51,000, and then a programming fee of the $714. When you add all of those up together, it comes to the $84,411.10. And again, the county has agreed to, for the first year, provide $282,000, which you add the salaries back in, and that's where we're at. So this was all provided in detail to the county, approved by the judge in the Commissioners Court, provided to y'all prior in the interlocal, and I'm asking permission tonight to go ahead and start purchasing this equipment, the tower upgrades, the EMD software, and the one computer, and the programming.
I make a motion to approve the purchase of the needed EMD equipment in the amount of $85,411.10 that is reimbursable expense by Lampasas County.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions of Chief Cummins? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
7.6, discussion and possible action regarding a quote, excuse me, a quote from Tyler Technologies, sole source provider for time and attendance digital application and hardware in the amount of $30,509.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. This is one that I was really excited about, and I know staff and managers in the group are excited about this software. What we've been trying to move towards is kind of a really great kind of smooth transition, seamless for having a paperless workflow. Our goal is to cut out as much paper as we can. I know that's been a goal of council as well, but looking at kind of first steps and how we do this, one of the things that takes quite a bit of staff time is doing weekly timesheets, leave requests, and I tried to kind of break it down. I have just a real basic ROI that I'd attach for your benefit, just to kind of look at the time that staff spends. But that's the sense of day in and day out what we're spending on reviewing, what staff's spending on signing their timesheets and inputting that information. So this particular software ties into what we already have. It's a Tyler Technology product that's in code, which we use for financials as well as work orders and different things. So this is kind of a seamless piece that adds on as an application. It's software as a service, which lives basically in the cloud, so we don't need to buy servers. There's not hardware to go with it, so you're saving costs on that. You're saving costs on trying to manage the upgrades. IT is short-staffed as we are at times, as needs arise for different software packages and for their support. That kind of makes it automated to the point where folks can log in from the web, and so that's a huge benefit, not having to maintain the hardware. The one thing I will point out is there's yearly recurring fees of $8,339, and this covers the time clocks as well as the software once it's purchased. Some of the things that we really looked at was having the ability to be transparent, staff going in to look at where are we at on time. So Vicky's still here in the audience. She spends a lot of time on folks' sick leave, vacation. People will reach out and say, how much time have I got? She'll have to go in there, look it up, see how much time they have, whereas this will allow them with their login, they can see everything, where they're at on their hours, how much time off they have left, and it automates it. I've had several managers kind of ask me, so to give you a little bit of background, timesheets will be preloaded, so whether that's for fire, PD, public works, but if you work, let's say, a 7 to 4 shift, it will already be loaded in there. And so as things change or people take time off, basically they automate, they log in, they request that time off by a few clicks, and it sends it then to their manager or their direct supervisor in line. They go in, they can either set it up where you get an email saying, hey, somebody's requested time off. You can go in there, click yes, no, and it will automatically then take that time and move it on the timesheet to where it needs to be. So it cuts out the, the time sequence that Vicky's having to do, as well as a lot of the managers. While there's errors, there could be error in the software as well. If people aren't tracking their time, it would be the same, if they're not doing that with the manual paper copies now. So I do believe it cuts out some of the errors in, where people, put in a certain amount of time, it's going to automatically calculate that instead of them hand calculating it. So I think some of those errors will be removed. Time clocks on certain sites. We looked at probably the Public Works building. We may not need 6. We asked them to give us a quote for 6. If we can use existing logins for staff, they can log in from one computer, such as the cemetery, that group. There's 3 folks that work over there. They all have a login, so they can use the computer there. So we're trying to, cut back costs where we can, but we went ahead and had them give us a quote for 6 time clocks. We'll probably at least keep one as a backup in case those go down. So it kind of gives the latitude for, various, types of sites and various staff user authentication. So, and I'll stand for any questions.
So basically, kind of how this works.
Move to
Sir?
approve the purchase of Tyler Technologies ExecuTime and necessary hardware in the amount of $30,509.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Now we can have some questions.
So basically, how this works is, excuse me on that, the employee will have a time card that he goes to and
Correct.
keeps track of his time, and then this system reads the time clock.
So there'll be 2 instances. That's pretty much spot on minus. So the time clock, as they scan in, they'll have a badge. They'll scan in and it will set that time, even though their schedule's already plugged into the system. And you can build in acceptable time frames. So if you think 10 minutes is acceptable, either way, if you're early or you're late, it will still let you clock in at the time clock, but it saves that time, date stamps it, and then moves that to your timesheet and checks it with what's already built in there. So there's that piece. And then the folks that actually, have a computer or a computer login will log in, and your timesheet will already be there as you log in. It will already be pre-filled out for you. The only thing you have to do is go in and if you want time off or approve it at the end of your 2-week pay period, you would log in, look at it, and automatically it would know because you would have had to request and get approved by your supervisor for any time off or leave request. It would already be filled out. If not, it would just be click approve. And
So will the employees, will they have a portal that they can go into this anytime and see
Right,
where they're at?
it's web-based, so they can log in from any computer that's, on the internet.
They're gonna have to log in at a portal versus a phone?
I think there's an application for the phone as well.
Okay.
If staff wants to put that on their phone. There would be some security we would have to look at and add to the phone most likely. Some folks, and I've had experience with this, not particular this specific software before, but we implemented this in my past life. And there was some things that came up where staff would say, well, I don't want to put it on my personal phone. And so some people do because it makes it easy. There's also, if you want to put it on your personal phone and you're logging in at a time clock location, there's also a geofence or basically a circle you can put around the site. And once they get inside that, if they want to log in with their phone, it has the ability to do that. You can just say here, but you have to be within a certain radius of, the time clock. You can't be 3 miles down the road and say, I'm here. So there are some checks and balances with that.
You think you can get everyone on board using it?
I'm
You
sorry.
think you can get everyone on board using it? And
So the development hours are also allowed for training, so we will have training for staff as well as managers and kind of the process. They'll come in, do some training. Most likely it'll be a web-based training that they'll do for us. But yeah, we want to make sure everybody's comfortable with it. That's always the thing when you make that change and transition to certain technologies. We want to make sure folks are
Is it also, it's obviously tied to your payroll, is it automatic payment that goes into, so that kind of takes
So
care of the-
currently, that's already in place, so the time that you put in will roll straight into your paycheck, and all that's accounted for now. So I'm not, it will be tied in with that, though, on the back end, all the development where they make that connectivity.
So it'd just be an e-deposit into somebody's checking account, is that correct?
The direct deposit we do have now, so
Yes.
most folks have direct deposit, but that won't change any.
Okay.
It will still be
So you could actually still get a regular check.
a regular check, I believe so. Yeah.
Yep.
So you got the ROI being 2.87 years crudely on, or like roughly on there, right? What about with like the incidentals, and you think there's gonna be a lot more program fees down the road? I mean,
I would hate to say no, there wouldn't be at some point. I don't think it would be year in, year out, having to go back and have them reprogram things. It would just be as we move to the cloud. So in code will be moving to the cloud. There may be a little bit of development work needed. I don't think so, since this application already lives in the cloud. I think the reoccurring charges, and that's really what kind of spanned it out to that 2.87 years that I'd thrown in there. Through the calculations was including that too, so that reoccurring fee. So, I think the time savings, and I think getting away from paper is the real big benefits, kind of going forward. So,
Ryan, one real simple question. Have you talked to other cities that are on this system here?
so when we did sit down with Tyler Technologies, we did not. I don't know if IT had reached out or not. I know we didn't, but we did ask Tyler Technologies when we were going through the training, who else is using this? And, I guess it's most folks that use Encode are also using that just because it's more of a seamless transition, and that's really why we just looked at them.
Is it a lot of trouble on the standby? How do you handle standby time?
Standby time will all be put into the schedule. So if you're standby, it would already be plugged into that kind of calendar scenario for your timesheet. So
I know sometimes they have to switch due to
Right.
sickness and other things.
And if there's changes, the goal would be, as the managers are trained, they'll still have to go in there at times and make corrections, to folks' timesheet. They'll have the ability to do that. So if somebody, for some reason, was on standby or had to change on-call times with somebody, then they would just have to go in there and edit that, whoever the manager or supervisor is.
Okay.
Any more? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
7.7, discussion and possible action to proceed with seeking sealed bids for Hostess House rehabilitation within the parameters discussed during workshop.
Mayor and council, again, at your seat at the dais, you do have a tentative or estimated project schedule that would indicate that we'll probably have 95 and 100% plan set to review. However, we would like to, based on the plan set that was presented to council the other night, seek your consideration for a motion to advertise for competitive sealed bid proposals for the Hostess House rehabilitation.
I'd move to approve and direct Antonio Naylor Reliance Architecture to advertise for competitive sealed bid proposals for the Hostess House rehabilitation, renovation, and constructions per plans and specifications that were presented to us and discussed at our last meeting.
I have a motion. Anyone want to second?
I'll second it to keep things moving.
We have a motion and a second. Are there other questions or concerns?
so it's not gonna cost us anything to get these bids, and then we can kind of figure out how we want to proceed after that, or we'll have to spend money on getting these bids? I guess just Mr. Naylor's time?
Correct, as well as you will have to buy an ad in the paper over 2 weeks. I believe it's two ads over 2 weeks. So there is some publication costs, but fairly negligible.
Any other concerns, questions? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
I'm gonna go nay too.
We have four and 2 against. 7.8, discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of board members to the Lampasas Economic Board Development.
This is just follow up to my board appointments. At this time, I'd like to recommend that we appoint Finn Irwin to our Lampasas Economic Development Corporation Board.
I'd like to move to appoint Finn Irwin to the Lampasas Economic Development Corporation Board to fill the vacancy.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
I noticed on his, application that he hadn't voted. Is that correctly?
It's possible. I can verify that information.
Is he outside the city limits, just in Lampasas?
He lives inside the city limits.
Okay, thank you.
Have a motion and a second. Any other questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be going into an executive session to discuss deliberation concerning the potential purchase, exchange, lease, acquisition, sale, and/or value of real property. If we could get a motion to adjourn into executive.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Future Economic Development Project for the City Industrial Park property, 1310 McLean Street, within parameters discussed in closed session.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Let's go home.